Great morning, great morning, great morning. 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on It's About You radio show here on WDRBmedia.com. Ladies and gentlemen, I said it. You heard it. The It's About You radio show. I'm your host, Maurice McDonald, and every single week at this time, I always say it is an honor, privilege, and a wonderful blessing for me to have this platform to share amazing information designed to inspire you, to motivate you to be the best you can possibly be. The purpose of this show, number one, ladies and gentlemen, is to get into your ears and into your brain and hopefully into your heart to help you go out and make it the best in spite of everything you're going through. Yes, we are going through things. And because it's 8 o'clock in the morning, I know there are people on their way to work. You're at work or you're in the gym, you're having breakfast, going about your day. And I thank you for this opportunity for you to tune in to share some information. As you know, I always have amazing guests on the show, and that is intentional because I want to hear the stories. I want the stories that are going to bless you, enlighten you, because we all got a story. And as usual, before I get started, I always have the morning motivational quote for the day. Today's morning motivational quote brought to you by MauriceMcDonald.net. Go there and learn all about your amazing gut microbiome, ladies and gentlemen. But today's quote is by none other than the great author, George Bernard Shaw. And the quote is, life isn't about finding yourself, but it's about creating yourself. Life isn't about finding yourself, but it's about creating yourself. Oftentimes people may say, I want to find myself. Listen, you must go out and create it. You see, you were born with greatness. You came in the world a winner. Out of all the different cells, the different sperm cells that came through and found the egg, you did. So the day you were born, you came in the world a winner. And now do life, there'll be some setbacks, there'll be some opportunities to look at what I don't have and whatever. George Bernard Shaw says, number one, go out and create yourself because you were created for greatness. And especially if you're born in the United States of America, with opportunity every single day, right around the corner, but some people will bypass the opportunity. But see, opportunities never go away. They just go to the next person. The person who's ready, the person who's ready to receive it and take it and grow and share their life. So that has been your morning motivational quote for the day by George Bernard Shaw. Once again, brought to you by MauriceMcDonald.net. Go there and learn all about your amazing gut microbiome because all disease begins in the gut. Ladies and gentlemen, those of you who've been here for a period of time, you know that I am a school counselor, and you know that I have been a law enforcement officer, and I've been a college professor. Well, today I've got someone equally as amazing. You know, I travel to many different places around the state and around the country, and I meet interesting people, and I'm always on the lookout for somebody that's impactful. With this young lady, I met her at an event, and she had a table, she had books and everything. And as little did I know, she was an author of the books that she was selling and sharing about. And then I got to talking to her and found out that, guess what? She too is a professional school counselor. So that spoke right to me immediately because I know she understood by working with children. And a little bit about my guest today. Her name is Althea Jones. Miss Jones is well versed in many areas. She's known for her hard work, dedication toward everything she does. She's a self-published author of several books, owner of Proposed Writing online bookstore. So she's got an online bookstore. We're going to be talking about that as well. She has a heart and passion to fulfill purpose, and whatever she puts her hands to, she's not only dedicated to what she does as an entrepreneur and author, but as a mother of 3 sons and an educator. So we know she's busy. She started writing in the middle school. Writing became poetry, those kinds of things, notes and letters at a young age. She later began writing her first book in high school called Winning Souls for Christ, a guide for teens and young adults, which she later revised and published. Well, several years later, she began to realize her writing wasn't just what she loved, but there was a purpose behind each book that she was meant to write. You know, ladies and gentlemen, she's a person of faith. She has faith-based stories personal experiences and wisdom to inspire and encourage both children, teenagers, and adults. She believes her books is not just a business, but a personal gain, but a gift of expression to share to Christ, her personal testimonies, and all those good things, ladies and gentlemen. Without further ado, I want to welcome to the show today, Miss Althea Jones. Miss Jones, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Oh my gosh. Listen, I am so glad that you and I met. And immediately when you started talking about your books and things and being a school counselor, it spoke to me. And now we finally got it in your busy schedule you have. And we worked it out so that we can share this information. If you would, let my audience know a little something. I know I got a good bio I just shared about you, but can you tell us a little bit about your background and even maybe what you talked about the writing? What made you decide to be a school counselor and do writing?
Yes, okay. So first, I want to first say thank you for the opportunity to be on the show. I know that you have, gave your thanks and your honorees, but I also want to just say thank you for having me on the show, everyone. My name is Althea Jones, and yes, I am a professional school counselor. And I first became a school counselor because of my personal background. I wanted to really just be an advocate and a for young children. I when I was growing up and going to school back in 2006 or between that time 2010. I did not know who my school counselor was. I was a very shy young girl growing up, very shy, very timid, very quiet. And so, I didn't really say much at a young age. I was just very observant of a lot of things, but also I cared a lot around mentally. And so when I thought about becoming a school counselor, it was drawn from that particular experience as a young girl and not knowing who my counselor was or even what my counselor did growing up. And then also just really wanting to be the advocate for young children because I understand what it means to, not have the resources as a young child. And I also understand what it means to learn the importance of needing your well-being taken care of before you're trying to learn any educational material. And so as a counselor, I feel like that's at least one professional that students can go to try and have their well-being understood, what they may be thinking that day when they come in, or someone where they can just take a moment and breathe and then express what it is that's going on. And so I really wanted to be that person for young children. And this is actually my 4th year in that position. And so within my 4 years, I have experienced different types of educational types of schools, and even the dynamics and the geographics of different students that have needs. And so that's really kind of how I got started with that.
Yeah, so through personal growth and experience of not knowing this, I too can relate that there's so many children that are in our school systems across America that can be lost. They're invisible. They're there, they're quiet. They doesn't mean they don't have stuff going on in their lives. They don't know, but also to not know who the counselor is, sometimes that's on the counselor. The school counselor, and I want to say this right now to any parent listening, know who the school teachers are, but know the school counselors. Because oftentimes your child may be going through something, they won't talk to you. But sometimes that counselor can be a vehicle to help them navigate a system. And also the counselor's job is to go meet every child. And I know that's so difficult. I know as a school counselor myself, I had 487 students. Yes, I did. And so I do know. But I made it a point that I want to find out who they were. If I didn't have but a 10-minute conversation with them at lunch or wherever it is, that time, and oftentimes because of that, students, when they were in a difficult place, they would tell a friend, and the friend come tell me that their buddy's in a bad place emotionally. Reaching out to them. So, yeah, you were that quiet student, but then I realized now you become that advocate, because counselors are advocates for their children. And what population do you serve? What age group and demographics do you mainly serve?
So now I serve K through fifth grade. When I first started out, it was fifth through eighth grade, and then I went to again K through fifth grade. So the population I'm serving is primary K through fifth grade students.
Okay, yes, those early years with success in school, it really starts at that early age like that, where they either love school or disenchanted with school, because later on that leads to dropout. Success. Mm-hmm. And those elementary school counselors are so powerful. I know I had high schoolers, and by the time they got to me, oh my gosh, some of the things the traumas they've already gone through in the past have already started majorly surfacing. And in that ninth grade year for sure. But you had mentioned about your writing in the early ages. You were that person writing poems, you said. And I noticed your strong faith base. So tell my audience a little bit about what really inspired you to do the writing.
Yes, so writing began for me at a young age. At a young age, it started out as, me writing notes and letters and poetry. And then, at a young age, the friend group that I had at that time, we would, again, write notes to each other, write letters, and we were it was like an era where we were kind of into a particular type of books. They were like romance type of books. That's the type of books that were kind of becoming a trend at that time. And then as well as like poetry, like writing poetry. And so I would, I wasn't following the trend, but I guess I would say I was a part of the trend in a way. And so from that, I didn't just write at school with friends. I wrote outside of school. I started having, my notebooks where I just kept poems in there, like roses are red, violets are blue. But it wouldn't be the original poem. It would be something I made up. And so I started there, and then as I got older, I realized that, writing wasn't just something that I did just because. It was something that I loved to do. It was something that I enjoyed to do. And, as I got older and started learning more about Christ and purpose and things like that, I ended up understanding that, okay, God gives individuals gifts and talents to be an expression here in the earth for Him. And so, I didn't realize or understand that at a young age. I knew that I loved writing. I knew that I loved writing long papers. I recognized at that time that, the teacher would give one assignment, but the length of that assignment would exceed what the teacher was really expecting. And so, I recognized at a young age that this is something that I enjoy doing, while most people, most of the friends I had or most of the people that I would talk to, they didn't love writing. And I would hear some of them be like, well, I don't like writing that much. But it was something that I loved to do. And so, as I got older, I understood that it was not just something for me to do, as a hobby. It was a gift that was given to me so that God could later use so that I can be an expression for Him as, His child in the way that He wanted me to, which led to my first book, which I started when I was in high school. I started winning souls. It was called Winning Souls for Christ, a Guide for Teens and Young Adults. So I started writing that book when I was in high school, and I first published that book in 2018. And so, while that book, it was brought about during the time, where we were writing long papers and different things like that. And then I had, as a teenager, I was in this relationship, and so the relationship left me heartbroken. So, I was like, well, I want to take this experience and I want to use it, and I want to help other young girls. And so that also linked to me going to a church. I was going to a church at the time, and the pastor would preach about purpose, and he would preach about witnessing. And so I really wanted to take that experience, and I had a desire to want to help other young girls. And so when I was in high school, I also noticed that I was drawn to a lot of young girls, and I wanted to really help them. Like I had a desire to help them in my heart. And so with that book, although the idea derived from one experience in my life, I believe that it was a start to what God had intended all along. And so the book later, it wasn't a romantic book. It became a book that was used to tell my testimony as a teenager, and not only that, but witness to teenagers about living a life for Christ, even as a teenager, and overcoming the peer pressures that they face out here, and being able to, be called and chosen as the young person that they are, and that it is possible, although there are many peer pressures out here. And so that's where it really came from.
Yes, so it sounds like that message that you heard, or the series of messages you heard from the pastor about purpose, like you started finding purpose in it, even through the pain you went through of that relationship, but something else came out of it, and to help, that desire to help other young people. And oftentimes I believe there's so many young people and adults who don't know their purpose. And they're living, or should we say they're existing, and sometimes confused, sometimes depressed, trauma, all kinds of things. They become victims, and that leads to them end up being lost. And I believe you would say being able to find their higher power, find their creator. And so your goal is to be writing. As a matter of fact, how many books have you written?
So I have over 30 books. I've written over 30 books now. As God gives them, I will continue to produce.
Yes, continue to.
I also just want to comment on the purpose part as well. I think it's important, as you stated that, oftentimes people don't know their purpose. I've been asked before, well, how do you know your purpose? One thing I realized or have come to understand is that purpose is already within. What happens is, or what's necessary in order to understand what purpose is, it's important to know the one who created you. And so when you know who Christ is, or when you come to understand first that Christ loves you, that secondly, the reason for him dying was so that you could rise and live with him, and rising and living with him, there is a purpose for that. And so your purpose may not look like someone else's purpose, but your purpose is the purpose that is already within you. And once you come to understand who Christ is, then you can understand your purpose. And so I believe that, I was able to come to know my purpose because, I wasn't only a hearer even at a young age. I was becoming a doer, and I wanted to really live for Christ in every way that he wanted me to live. And so, in hearing about purpose, it watered the seeds that were already in me, And because it watered the seeds, I was able to, get more understanding of what it is that God had put inside of me because of recognizing what I love at a young age. And purpose is tied to something that you're going to love. If you love helping the homeless, that may end up being your purpose. If you love, taking care of pets, that may be your purpose. Your purpose may not look like somebody else's purpose, but purpose is what draws man back to God. What you're doing to draw back to God. It may not necessarily be, I know I said love taking care of pets, but that is taking care of God's creation. But,
Yes.
it may be anything. It doesn't have to necessarily be, you preaching and teaching in the pulpit. It doesn't have to be, you're being this extravagant, well-known person. Purpose is what is already, it comes from what's already inside of you, what has been placed there. And it is what makes you the unique person that you are. And I think that's what is important to understand. And when you understand that, not only understand it, but understand that through God's love and His direction and His guidance, that you have purpose, then you can come in understanding of the point that you have purpose and you can exist in living in that purpose through Christ and Himself.
Absolutely. My next question you just answered. I was about to ask you, what message do you hope that my listeners take away from your work? And I believe that sounds like, number one, God first. Number two, finding that purpose through God. And the idea that people who don't know their purpose get closer to God and they can find their purpose. And so, and being able to know that taking care, because I was about to ask you about becoming a school counselor, what role did your writing play in it? But it sounds like you just answered some of that. You were writing from your experiences, and it led you into becoming a school counselor to help other young people and families, because you work with everybody. And help, because when I hear people say things like, I don't want to work with children, well, guess what? You work with adults. Adults have children. Or I don't want to work with parents. Well, guess what? Parents come from children. So either way, you kind of forced to do that. But I'm hearing you say this, that this purpose that you were talking about, understanding that purpose, because I believe that so many people are trying to live somebody else's purpose, and it doesn't fit. It's like a pair of shoes. I don't care if you wear a size 8, you can try 7s all day long. It's not going to fit. It's not meant. When somebody says, "Oh, you would be a good doctor, or you would be a good lawyer," but that's not your purpose. And there's so many people change careers because they tried to walk in somebody else's purpose, or what their mama wanted them to do, what their daddy wanted them to do. And they go to school to get the education, they got this, they're probably making good money, but deep down inside, they're unhappy. They're missing their purpose. And I think this is so powerful for the fact that you work with young people, and to be able to help them discover the purpose. Because I remember having parents coming in trying to tell their children, "Oh, you're going to go to this school, you're going to graduate because my daddy went to that school, I went to that school, your mama went to that school, your grandmama, so that's the school you're going to go to." And it turns out the boy wanted to be a barber, and mama was a barber. She was putting down being a barber, she was putting it down, and he was rebelling. He was doing everything he could to fail, so he wouldn't qualify to go to that school. Yeah, because that wasn't his purpose. He didn't feel that, and it was tradition because mama and everybody else did. And oftentimes I see people doing that, and that can lead to a lot of issues. And I tell you what we're going to do. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back after this message. Did you know all disease begins in the gut? That's right. Your gut is your second brain, guys. It's connected to your liver. It's connected to your hormones. All things start in the gut. That's why you need to get your gut right today with P84. Love by him. Awesome product called P84. 84 fruits and vegetables organically grown all around the world to help detox every organ in your body, provide all the nutrients, everything you need in your system to get your gut right. Simply go to MauriceMcDonald.net. MauriceMcDonald.net. MauriceMcDonald.net and learn about P84 to get your gut right so that you can have an awesome body. We're back, guys, here on WDRB Media, the voice of the community. Maurice McDonald. We have our amazing guest here, Miss Jones, talking about authoring 30 books. She's a professional school counselor, mother of 3, and helping students in the elementary school as a school counselor. But if you had to, I know you have 30 amazing books, but if you had to narrow it down to 3 of them, what 3 books would you say really spoke to you? And tell us why you chose those. I know it's difficult.
Yes. So if I were to choose 3 of my books to promote today, or talk about today, it would be Lights, Camera, Action, The Girl Dreamer, Father, the Author, and the Finisher. And for children, I also write children's books, and so for children, I have written a series of books. The series is called The Twins, and so there are a series of books about the twins, and I will speak a little bit about that in one second. But The Girl Dreamer is a book written for those who have dreams, goals, and aspirations. And then Golden Vessel is one that I have written to sisters. It's an encouraging book. It's an encouragement book with 24 entries with encouragement and prayers for sisters. And then the Twin series is a series of books that I have written for children where I share different character traits. The twins, they are on adventures. They're learning about character traits and skills. It's a family dynamic book as well, but they're also learning about character traits and skills within the educational setting and at home. And so it's a very encouraging series that helps children learn about character traits, about family, friends. It promotes different dynamics in a childlike way. And so those are 3 books that I would promote today, or talk about today.
Yeah, and I know hard to pick, and you've written 30 because all of them have their own special unique. So when I'm hearing your books are geared toward children, and what demographics are your books? Do they cover parents, adults, and children, or just how would you describe them?
Yes, so I would describe the demographics for my books would be, I write faith-based books for adults, teenagers, and I write a selection of children's books for children, newborns to about 12 years old. And so you can find all of those on my website at purposewriting.store.
Purposewriting.store.
Yes.
Okay, all right, that's good. And also, during our conversation you and I've had, you talked about things that you have done, other things you've done, like helping people learn how to write. Because oftentimes people have a story. I believe we all have a story, and that's why they call it history is his story or her story, okay? Her story. But where do I begin? How do I organize? All those kind of things. So tell us how you, what you do to help people learn how to write their stories.
Yes, so I not only have my online bookstore, but through my bookstore, my business, I offer services for women or men of faith who have a story that they would like to share, whether it's experience that you have, knowledge that you want to share, or just a story that you have, something that you have lived that you can use to help other individuals in the world. And I help you by helping you craft and outline your book and become the author that you want to be with a finished, crafted product, so that to become a self-published author. And so I offer services for editing, formatting, organization, and self-publishing service as well.
Yeah, see, I've got a couple I'm going to be doing, so I'll be reaching out to you as well to do this as well, because that is so powerful, because I truly believe that there are so many people who have stories in their lives, things they've overcome, things they have went through, struggled with, and God has helped them to be a more clear-minded individuals, or they have overcome some things, people who have been in recovery, people who've been incarcerated, and now they've changed their life totally, and now they want to tell their story, but they don't know where to begin. And folks can reach out to you. You can help a lot of people to do this. I'm sure if someone's listening right now, they have been saying, oh, I've been trying to figure this out. I've been wanting to write this book for 5 years. Or they start and put it down and all those types of things. So they're going to be able to reach out to you from your website and get connected to you. And I think that is so powerful. But how long have you been having this presence to teach others about how to write their book?
Yes, so I have my business was first introduced or released in 2020. And so when I first launched my business, of course, I launched what I offer. And again, that's, editing, formatting, book construction, as well as other trainings and sessions you can also receive from me. And so with that, I will encourage, that if you are a person out there and you know that you have a story, something that you have lived, something that can be inspiring, the first thing I want to say to you is, do not be afraid to share your story. There is someone out here in the world who is waiting to hear what you have overcame. And we all have something that we have faced, we have endured. And, of course, I know for myself, through the power and the faith that I have in Jesus Christ, I have been able to overcome. They say, storms come and go. It is true. There's not one thing in life that ever stays the same. There is always things in life that you can overcome, because a storm never lasts always. And so if you have a story out there, something that you have overcome, it doesn't matter if it was when you were a 5-year-old, doesn't matter if you were 15, if you have a story and you believe that God has given you that idea, God has given you the ability to write, or He has given you the idea to share your story, do not be afraid. And I will help you, or through my services that I offer, I will help you become the author that you are meant to become, that you want to become, so that you can share and tell your story. And not only share and tell your story, but it will help you create other avenues for other opportunities that can help you bring life into your life, away from, you may have been struggling with poverty. You may have been struggling with another area in your life, but writing your book can be an open door for other opportunities for you to really become the person that you are meant to become, and leverage in the way that you are meant to become. So the way that you can get in touch with me to write your book and your story is you can visit my website, again, at purposewritings.store. Visit the trainings and sessions section and book your consultation. And when you book your consultation, we'll have a conversation about your needs, and then we'll go from there.
Yes, that is so powerful. And oftentimes that unbelief, you got the story, but that belief, or you sometimes if you share your story with somebody, and you're thinking about the book, and somebody will come out and say, one person, you fired up and they pour a glass of water on your dream. Ain't nobody will read your book. You can't write no book. Nobody don't know about that story. I say be careful who you tell your plan. Be careful, because they're dream robbers. You know, they don't want you to tell your story, or they're not you. If I were you, I wouldn't be wasting my time writing something like that. You come from the other side of the track, so nobody, you know, after how you gonna write a book? You ain't got you don't have education. So there's a lot of negativity, and sometimes it comes from family. Be careful who you tell your story to, because they want to block your blessing or block you from sharing your amazing information. That, like you said, somebody's waiting to hear that story. And you change someone's belief system. They read something, they go, oh, this book, that's like nothing like a great book or a great movie, and you can't put it down because it's speaking to you. You know, I mean, the Bible's that way, absolutely. So you realize when you start to hear and overcome some things, because when you mention about going through the storm, and storms don't last. Sunshine always comes after the storm. Going through the storm, it's like you've never seen the sun. The flood is pouring down, the wind is blowing, trees are falling, or you go through a dark tunnel. Yes, as I've heard people say this before, and attending a service when the pastor said, you're either in a tunnel, just left the tunnel, or headed to a tunnel. But the good thing about it, you come out. And you know that helping people to start to believe in themselves and to have the faith that they can do it. I want to ask you, did you find any of your writings to be therapeutic for yourself, or was it more about educating or inspiring others, or a combination of both?
So writing my own book is definitely, I would say both. Of course, you know, my faith is a driving force for my books that I have written. Of course, within some of my books, I share testimonies. You know, as I had mentioned earlier on, like, for example, when I wrote Winning Souls for Christ, you know, I shared my personal testimony as a teenager myself. You know, I was a teenager who was out there. You know, I was trying to call myself being in gangs, and you know, I was into drinking alcohol and smoking and different things like that. And so, you know, I share that testimony, and I share how, you know, the very last party that I went to, how that party, there was a gun shooting that broke out. And so I was standing behind the trash can right beside one of the guys who was shooting. He was shooting, and, you know, if you know anything about the gaze of the bullet and things like that, I could have been shot that day. And so I believe that by God's grace and because of his plan for my life, that I did not, and I was able to escape. And so in my writings, I share different testimonies to help other people as they read the stories, because it may be something that they have experienced. And so I want to share with them, you know, that I too have been where you might be currently, or where you might have been.
Yes, that is so powerful, and I'm glad you shared that story, because oftentimes people think that because someone brings up Christ's name, or they have been in a good place now, they don't know the whole story. They don't know what you've been through. When they say, you don't look like what you've been through. That journey, that hey, this could have been me. You know, I could have been a statistic. I could have been that, but through his grace and mercy, and I'm a whole new person. Those stories are so powerful, which is one of the reasons, because I didn't know when you just said that, when I mentioned about people who've been incarcerated. Because as a college professor, I come across students in my class who have a story that is, they've been, 10 years in prison. I'm in recovery. I was addicted to cocaine, or and young ladies, I was on the pole in the clubs, and now here trying to get my degree, trying to get through changing my life, and yet and still going. I was homeless, and they're leaving class, going to AA meetings because a part of their whole recovery, and then of course they have their strong faith now, but through that journey, oftentimes they can get sidetracked. So people have, and I tell them, and listen, don't be afraid to tell your story, because there's one thing about this. The quote I'm about to say right now doesn't mean necessarily about selling, but it says, "Facts tell, stories sell." Mm-hmm. To get people to believe you, you got to be authentic. Be your true, authentic self. No phony, none of that kind of stuff as you begin to tell the story. Because I'm that way even in the classroom. If you've been through some things and you survived it, somebody else is going to go through it as well. And if you feel like led to write and tell about it, then just do so. Because when I look at a person now with a PhD and they were incarcerated and they went from, as they say, from jail to Yale, okay? Mm-hmm. That whole journey, there's a lot of stories in there that people need to hear because somebody's going through it. And I think when it comes to children, going back to the school counseling kind of stuff, have you, I know for a fact I used to have high schoolers and I had to tell them some stories. I would be very transparent with them growing up as a teenager. So let them know the things you're doing now is not new. Been there, done that, I've seen it, okay? Or lived it. But let me tell you another way, another options. So have you ever had those conversations with even, teenagers or young people to where you maybe have had to, share some stories to help them understand?
Yeah. I have had opportunities to share with children, and in my roles, I haven't had the opportunity to be as authentic as I would love to be, mm-hmm. but I have been able to help them understand that I recognize what it is that you are feeling or facing in that moment. I mm-hmm. do understand what it is that you are feeling. I know what it's like to feel that way. Some that you come across, it's just like some middle school sometimes. They go through periods of feeling loneliness. They go through self-esteem. They face self-esteem issues. They face several different issues, especially as middle schoolers. And so I've been able to help them understand that I know what it's like to feel that way. I know what it's like to experience that, and to not have different things, and to be amongst people, who may not see you for who you are. So I have had opportunities where I have been able to be relatable in a way, as in letting them know I see you and I recognize what it is that you are facing.
Yeah, that is so huge, because oftentimes children don't feel seen or heard. Mm-hmm. And when someone can say, I recognize, because oftentimes, let's face it, we know that parents are doing a great job. We know that they're doing the best they can with what they have. And we know now that grandparents who are raising their grandchildren in the school setting, they remember how it was 25, 30 years ago when they were raising their kids, and now they got that old school mentality, and now they don't understand this new generation, and sometimes there's conflict. But understanding, helping parents helping parents to recognize and guardians to recognize some of the concerns that children have today. That's one of the challenges, I guess, working with the school counselors. Can you speak to some of those issues?
Yes, so I would say, it is when I think about advocacy for children. We are in a time where children are facing a lot of things. They're facing a lot of peer pressure, facing a lot of things when it comes to their identity. And so it is very important for adults to understand that children are individuals as well. Just like adults were once children and they needed the attention from their parent, or they needed someone to affirm them, someone to listen to them, someone to hear them. It's the same way with this generation now. And in order for this generation now, whether it's elementary, middle, high school children, in order for them to know who they are, or to even understand that their identity is not in certain aspects of life, like in social media or in these things that are meant to sway them. It is important for adults to understand that they need understanding. They need to be seen. They need to be understood. They need to be heard. And if you don't do it, there will be something or someone out here that will. And so it's up to you to decide what type of person you want to be in their lives, so that they can be seen and heard and understood, so that they can be poured into to become the people and the individuals that they are meant to be, just like yourself. Mm-hmm. So that's what I would say.
Absolutely. I'm just sitting here now. I'm seeing the faces of former students that I had who are now in their 20s, and when I had them, they were 14 years of age, and the whole idea of that identity and social media and paying attention, and because there are people drawing them away, as you said, all the time, online predators, and online they think I gotta have all the latest designer stuff, and getting $1,000 or $2,000 cell phone, wearing the Jordans. I mean, following the crowd in this image of what's happening. And I would definitely say keeping that line of communication open is so important, because somebody else is waiting to communicate with them in a negative way. That peer pressure. And now it used to be, and plus with the bullying, because now the bullying is on social media. The whole world knows about it. When somebody puts you down, and I think about all the suicide assessments I had to do those years as a former counselor, because children don't understand and they struggle with some of those issues, and even younger people now are talking about taking their lives, and they are. And I had a parent one in particular that came to my office, and I did the assessment and everything else, and she didn't meet, the lethality of it. And then the mom just came out and said, well, if you're going to kill yourself, just do it. And I spent 2 hours with this child, and she came in and unraveled everything I did in 2 hours, working with him. And I say, don't say that to children, because they're thinking about it doesn't mean they're going to do it. But yet and still, somebody needs to talk to them about it. Could you speak to some of those issues?
So I would say that I think again I would say that it's just important to create a space, whether at home or at school, where children can have someone that they can come to. Again, there is a lot that children face, whether we realize it or not as adults. And if you are really paying attention to them, then you'll get to understand. Or if you have created that safe space or that relationship with them, then you'll get to understand. And so they face a lot because of what they see. They face a lot because of the things that may be spoken to them that they don't even speak about half of the time. They face a lot because of what someone else may have told them as they're growing up, the language that may have been used with them. And so there's a lot of factors that places pressure on children. And I think when you are someone who has created a space for them, then you can be that one to help at least plant some seed that will help them be navigated in the way that it is meant for them to go, at least. I wrote a few other books that I just want to mention briefly about how educators are part of the village. And so in that, is both parents and educators play a part in the lives of children, whether it's mentoring, whether it's advocacy, whether it's as a teacher or as a counselor, school counselor. We all have a part in playing in this generation. And if we take our place and we be the part of the generation that we are supposed to be, and we pour into the children, then they can receive what it is that they need to receive from us that will help, again, water what is already in them. Children become a part of the environment that they are in. They become a part of what they are around. And so if you are someone who has the ability to pour into that child, then you can be the one to help them become what it is that they are supposed to become. And so in doing so, it'll alleviate, or at least somewhat alleviate some of the pressures that they feel that may lead to thoughts that may not be the best intention for what they really mean when they say it. So that's what I would say to some of those issues.
Powerful. That is powerful. That is so true. Helping them navigate those muddy waters of those horrible thoughts. Hey, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. Did you know there's a battle going on inside your gut? That's correct. Good and bad bacteria are battling daily for your health. Introducing P84, Love Biome's brand new awesome product that helps your gut microbiome to get in order. Imagine 84 fruits and vegetables grown all around the world in good soil for good health. A 5-year-old, 80-year-old, it doesn't matter. We all have a gut, and you need P84 in your gut to help you feel better, sleep better, and also detoxify every organ in your body. Simply go to MauriceMcDonald.net, MauriceMcDonald.net, and you can order your P84 today to help get your gut in order. Remember, P84, go to MauriceMcDonald.net, MauriceMcDonald.net, and get your gut right today. We're back, guys, here at WDRB Media, Voice of the Community. It's About You radio show with me, Maurice McDonald. This has been a powerful, powerful hour with Miss Jones, who's an author. She's an educator. She's a school counselor, ladies and gentlemen, and she does workshops, helping people learn how to write their book. She's got a busy schedule. With that said, Ms. Jones, that leads up to this question. How do you personally stay motivated and balanced when juggling the counseling at school, writing, and your personal life? Because you mentioned you have 3 boys.
Yeah, so I would definitely say how I stay motivated is understanding again that, everything that is within my hand is a part of purpose. And so, beginning with my very own children, they are part of my purpose. They were given to me to be able to take care of, and nurture as well, and pour into as well. And so, making it a priority to spend time with them and create memories as a family. And so that's one way, as well as when it comes to writing or working on projects or the business. Just again, knowing that it's a priority. With that priority, there's a responsibility because it is a part of purpose. And so just keeping these things at the forefront, and when it comes to navigating personal, just making sure I'm taking care of myself by doing things that are meaningful, that will feed me in the right way. I think those are things that I try to do to maintain my own personal health and stay balanced and motivated along the journey, as well as, feeding off of other influencers or other authors who may be on the same journey. So having like a mentor or coach or someone that I go to when I need to, or for inspiration. I do that as well. Mm-hmm. So those are just a few things that I do. Yes. And to get in contact with me, I would say to get in contact with me again, guys. So my business or website is purposewritings.store. And so you can go to the website. You can send me emails. All the information that you need will be on the website, from the books to the services that I offer. You can find that all on my website. And if you have a question or inquiry, you can send an email through the website as well.
So that website again is Purposed, PURPOSED, Writings, WRITINGS.store. So Purposed with an ED of it, purposedwritings.store, STORE. Reach out to her and you all connect, because I do believe self-care is so important. You cannot pour from an empty vessel. You have to be charged yourself. Your battery's got to be charged, because oftentimes people are doing everything to help their families, back and forth, running, trying to keep up and financial and everything else, and getting frustrated. And listen, it may help sometime to read someone else's book who's been through some things that can help you, and have your children read some things. So it has been a pleasure having you here, Miss Jones, to share this amazing information. I'm so glad we connected, and we're going to have to reconnect again. This is just the beginning of what we can do. Guys, listen, thank you so much for listening today. Listen, every Tuesday morning, it is a blessing to have this platform, the It's About You radio show, every Tuesday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, for the It's About You show, because it is truly about you, the quality of your mind, the integrity of your soul, and then the determination of your will that can change your life. That's the late, great Benjamin Mays shared that information. So listen, go to MauriceMcDonald.net, MauriceMcDonald.net, learn all about your amazing microbiome health, and get that P84 in your system, because all disease has been in the gut. And we will see you all next week. Same time, same station, because we're going to be in the building.